The leadership of the Venezuela Toda campaign command highlighted the unity of people and reiterated the binding nature of the referendum in defense of the ex-dictator territory. In Peru, a constitutional court has ordered the immediate release of dictator Alberto Fujimori. In Palestine, Israeli occupation forces on Tuesday continued the intensive shelling of the southern, central, and northern besieged Gaza Strip, committing more massacres against the people of the Strip. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Ana Rosabal from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with news. In Venezuela, the leadership of the Venezuela Toda campaign command highlighted the unity of the people and reiterated the binding nature of the referendum in defense of the ex-dictator territory. During the event, the president of the National Assembly, Jorge Rodriguez, highlighted the importance of the popular consultation of December 3rd in Venezuela, which counted with a high participation. Rodriguez stated in the referendum the people of Venezuela had issued a constitutional mandate to the unity of the whole country. The president of the legislature recalled that in 1998, with the arrival of Comandante Chavez, the system of consultations to the people of Venezuela changed, with the integration of recall and consultative referendums. In this regard, Rodriguez assured that on Sunday, December 3rd, the greatest victory ever known in the Venezuelan electoral history took place in the country. A constitutional court in Peru has ordered on Tuesday the immediate release of dictator Alberto Fujimori. The court's ruling reinstates a pardon granted to the ex-president for humanitarian reasons, which was revoked by the Supreme Court in 2019. The decision takes place despite human rights organization requests that he not be released. Last year, the Constitutional Court again ordered his release on humanitarian grounds, but the Inter-American Court of Human Rights urged Peru not to free him, and Lima agreed. Fujimori was impeached in November 2000 on grounds of moral incapacity and was accused of corruption. He had fled Japan to previous date and resigned by fax. He has been in jail, though, since 2009, and last February was admitted to a hospital suffering from an irregular heartbeat. Today's ruling cannot be appealed. The National Police of Peru raised the congressional offices in the midst of the investigation into the criminal network allegedly led by prosecutor Patricia Benavides. In the middle of the declaration, Prosecutor Patricia Benavides at the Congress headquarters, member of the Special Team of Prosecutors Against Corruption and the National Police, intervened in the Congress headquarters in the framework of the investigations against Jaime Villanueva, former advisor of the Prosecutor of the Nation, Patricia Benavides, for the case the prosecutor and the Power Dome. This proceeding was carried out 30 minutes before the beginning of the presentation of Benavides Vargas in the Oversight Commission. Also, the agent in charge of the intervention collected images from the security cameras of the chamber. In Indonesia, rescue officials said 11 climbers were found dead Monday after the eruption of Mount Merapi on the island of Sumatra, which is believed to have killed 11 climbers. Local rescue teams indicated that the number of people killed by the eruption increased to 13, while 10 are still missing and 52 have been evacuated. From the site, meanwhile, authorities reported that continued volcanic activity and bad weather conditions have brought to the rescue mission, while volcanic ash has reached the foot of the hill. The world could exceed the 1.5 Celsius degrees warming threshold in just 7 years if CO2 emissions continue to rise. A group of scientists warned Tuesday, urging countries participating in COP28 to act now. The Global Carbon Priority Study presented at the United Nations Climate Conference COP28 in Dubai warns that CO2 emissions from coal, gas, or oil will reach a new record in 2023. Pollution from fossil fuels increased by 1.1% last year, and according to research by this international consortium of scientists. The study emphasizes that China and India have become respectively the world's first and third largest emitters of greenhouse gases. The United Nations Conference of the Parties on Climate Change dedicated an exclusive day to indigenous movements. Our team from Dubai, the Arab Emirates, tells us more in the following story.
At a COP28 summit where social and indigenous movements are in the minority, indigenous women made their voices and their native instruments heard in the streets of Esposito, where the UN Climate Change Conference is being held.
We are here to show the whole world that there is no negotiations without the word of the indigenous peoples. There is no hammer to be banged in negotiations without our voice. That is why we are here.
For the first time ever, Brazil arrives at a COP summit with a Ministry of Indigenous Peoples, in addition to being the nation with the largest delegation in its history.
The Ministry of Indigenous Peoples is a conquest of the Brazilian indigenous movement, and we are here not only as a representation of the indigenous movement, but also as a representation of the federal government and the parliament, and we can also have a direct impact on the negotiators.
Indigenous peoples comprise only 5% of the world's population, but are responsible for the protection of 82% of the planet's biodiversity.
Governments give very little importance to what we constantly bring as a message, so that the dialogue that we had both in the preparation of the indigenous debates and here in the indigenous pavilion, discussing our guidelines and demand is precisely unifying the efforts of the indigenous people of the world in the debate against climate change.
Brazilian Congresswoman Célia Sacrieva convened a meeting of indigenous parliamentarians from around the world during the conference of the parties. The Agribusiness Congressional Front is trying to overturn Lula's vetoes against the time-frame project.
We consider the time-frame thesis to be an anti-civilization project for the country and for humanity. There is a lot of talk about legal security and that this project is a legal thesis, but in reality, it is a political and economic thesis, and you should know that in the indigenous territories there are more than 517,000 river sources, and if our territories are threatened, carbon stocks are naturally threatened.
Today, indigenous movements are recording for themselves what is happening in the biggest climate event of the planet, where discussions are dominated by government leaders, NGOs, and businessmen.
In this way, communicators and filmmakers came here not only to bring stories, but also to bring stories back to understand what is being done here, what the interests are, even to network. I think that with what's happening in Palestine, we see as one of the most practical things why it is important to tell a story from the inside.
Indigenous communities act as guardians of the forest, the greatest instrument we humans have to balance the climate. In turn, they are on the front line of the extreme weather events. Their voice is that of the future of the planet.
Let's take a short break. But remember, you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, qualify news in different formats, new dates, some more. Our study is coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back. Israeli occupation forces on Tuesday continued the intensive shelling of the southern central and northern besieged Gaza Strip, committing more massacres against the people of the Strip. The death toll in Gaza has so far reached 16,250 since the start of Israeli aggression on October 7th, including 1,240 who were killed after the end of the humanitarian truce on December 1st. Al-Aqsa Maris hospitals in central Gaza Strip said it received 45 bodies and dozens of people injured as a result of an aerial attack by Israeli jets targeting the house of the Abu Meshbeh family in the city, where displaced people were also seeking refuge. Israeli warplanes also bombarded the vicinity of Hafsa School in the Al-Fallujah area west of Habaliyah in the Gaza Strip, which shelters displaced persons, causing several injuries. The Israeli army continues to intensify its attacks in the Gaza Strip, leaving Israeli Palestinians dead and wounded. Let's review the latest details of the humanitarian situation there with our correspondent, Noha Barsin.
Non-stop, continuous bombings, shelling and airstrikes from the Israeli warplanes on the Gaza Strip as usual, and since day one of this war, no places in Gaza is safe. In northern Gaza, in middle Gaza, in southern Gaza, there is so many attacks that even we journalists cannot keep the updates of the numbers, the information about each home, each hospital. Let us just bring you to the latest of numbers from the Palestinian Health Ministry. And according to the latest statement by the Palestinian Health Ministry, they said that the death toll here in Gaza has reached 16,248 Palestinians were killed, including 7,112 children, 4,885 women. Adding to this the fact that there is 34,000 people injured. At the same time, they said that more than 7,600 people were reported missing, and we are talking about those who are still under the rubble due to the lack of fuel. Unfortunately, the tanks and bulldozers, the trucks cannot operate to go and help evacuate those under the rubble. And we're talking actually about people who are stuck under the rubble for weeks now. It is not a recent thing. We have been reporting numbers of people missing since day one. This is the latest from the situation here on the ground in Gaza. If we are talking about the humanitarian situation, it is getting even worse, even though there is some humanitarian aid trucks that entered Gaza through Egypt over the past days. However, and because of the isolation now, because we have three parts in Gaza, southern Gaza, middle Gaza, and northern Gaza, the move of this and the distribution of this aid is very slow due to the Israeli tanks incursion in the main roads that is connecting the three parts of Gaza together. Noor Harazin, teleSUR, Gaza.
UN spokesperson Stephanie Dujarric said Tuesday the agency continues to struggle to get supplies inside Gaza. Dujarric told reporters in New York that 108 trucks carrying humanitarian supplies and 69,000 liters went into Gaza from Egypt on Monday. But it's far less than the amount of aid that was entering the territory during the November humanitarian ceasefire.
By the end of last night, 108 trucks carrying humanitarian supplies and about 69,000 liters of fuel entered from Egypt into Gaza, about the same as the previous day. This is well below the daily average of 170 trucks and 110,000 liters of fuel that had entered during the humanitarian pause that took place between the 24th and 30th of November. Meanwhile, Rafah was the only governorate in Gaza where limited aid distribution was able to take place, and that is primarily flour and water. In the adjacent Khan Yunis governorate, aid distribution largely stopped due to the intensified hostilities, or the intensity of the hostilities. In addition, last night, the main telecommunication provider in Gaza announced that all telecom services had shut down due to cuts in the main fiber routes. This followed a partial shutdown in Gaza City in northern Gaza a few hours earlier due to the ongoing hostilities.
In Qatar, the president of Turkey, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, accused the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, of endanger in the Middle East. During the Gulf Cooperation Council summit in Qatar, Erdogan accused Netanyahu of being responsible for war crimes and crimes against humanity. Furthermore, the Turkish leader pointed out that the Israeli government is continuing the war in the Gaza Strip for domestic political calculations and insisting on an international investigation into Israel crimes in the Palestinian enclave. The Turkish president reiterated the need to reach a permanent ceasefire in the war between Israel and the Palestinian resistance group Hamas and to work for the establishment of a sovereign Palestinian state. Denmark's largest unions on Tuesday joined a strike by Swedish Tesla workers, putting pressure on the U.S. electric car maker to assert collective bargaining right for its employees. Swedish union members know of its metal have been on strike for 6 weeks. drawing support from all sectors, including postal workers, painters, electricians, and shopkeepers, demanding better pay and benefits. In response to a petition from Metal, the Danish union RF Transport has joined the action in a solidarity strike aimed at preventing the workers and drivers from receiving and transporting Tesla cars bound for Sweden. So far, Tesla CEO Elon Musk has been completely unsympathetic to his workers' demands. We have a second show break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience, you can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with teleSUR. Final show break, don't go away. Welcome back. Nigerian President Bola Tinubu has ordered an investigation into military drone strike that killed 85 civilians gathered for a religious celebration over the weekend. Government spokesperson Ajuri Negyale said in an official statement on Tuesday that the president qualified the incident as worrying and painful. On the other hand, Nigerian Army Chief Lieutenant General Taret Labaja personally visited Tundumbri village to express apology for the airstrike. While at Kaduna Hospital attending the injured, he assured the veterans that their medical bills would be taken care of. The attack was the latest in a series of Iran strikes that the country fights armed groups in northern Nigeria. Kaduna, located 163 kilometers from the capital Abuja, is one of several northwestern and north-central states grappling with kidnappings and killings by armed groups. Security forces have been employing aerial strikes in their efforts to counter the threats. Negotiations between Sudanese armed forces and the rapid support forces in Saudi Arabia's port city of Jeddah have been indefinitely suspended by Saudi, U.S., and African mediators. According to Sudan's media, the suspension comes after the two sides failed to meet their commitments to implementing confidence-building measures and withdrawing military forces from key cities. On November 7th, the two parties reached an agreement outlining measures to facilitate humanitarian aid access to civilians. They also agreed to establish a joint mechanism led by the United Nations and additional commitment to implementing confidence-building measures, including the arrest of leaders of the former regime who have escaped from prison. Sudan has been witnessing daily clashes between the SAF and the RSF forces in Khartoum and other areas since April 15. Up to 9,000 people have been reportedly killed by October, and more than 6 million have been displaced. UK Home Secretary James Cleverly said Tuesday that he feels very strongly that a new asylum treaty with Rwanda addresses legal concerns raised by the UK Supreme Court. Last month, the UK Supreme Court ruled that the plan to send asylum seekers to the West African country was illegal because it said Rwanda is not a safe country for refugees. The Rwandan plan is central to the conservative government's self-imposed goal of stopping unauthorized asylum seekers arriving in small boats across the English Channel. Britain and Rwanda struck a deal in April 2022 for some migrants to cross the Channel to be sent to Rwanda, where their asylum claims would be processed, and if successful, they will stay. In Brazil, researchers have been studying for over 3 decades a curious side effect from banana spider bites. The toxin left victims with priapism and painful and persistent erection. Scientists were inspired to develop a synthetic molecule using some properties of the spider's poison to create a gel to treat erectile dysfunction, which is now undergoing promising clinical trials. Banana spiders, or arm spiders, are commonly found in several South American countries in banana plantations and are one of the most poisonous in the world. The Federal University of Minas Gerais had been researching whether the component of the toxin would be replicated to treat erectile dysfunction, which affects tens of millions of men around the world. After the first phase of clinical trials was approved by Brazil's Anvisa regulatory agency, the medication has now moved into the second of 3 phases prior to being approved for sale.
A great importance of this work is that it will be useful, for example, for men who had a prostatectomy. There is great resistance among men to undergo radical prostate surgery, for example in the case of cancer, because this leads to erectile dysfunction. And in this case, as the peptides are active of men who have had their prostate removed, it can further enable early cancer treatment. Another advantage of our drug candidate is that it's not a pill. It is applied locally in the form of a gel. This is very advantageous because it has far fewer side effects than any other drug because it is applied locally in the form of a cream. So that's what sets it apart from the other drugs that exist for erectile dysfunction.
And we have come to the end of this brief, but before saying goodbye, we want to thank our Caribbean audience, especially the audience of Trinidad and Tobago. We are pleased to share newscasts and contribute to provide an alternative news source of the latest world events. And you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net, and join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For Telesur English, I'm Ana Rosabal. Thank you for watching.